because we see how his instructions are transforming our lives and inspiring us to become more and more serious about our spiritual life. We know Prabhupada to be a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, empowered to spread the message of Krishna consciousness all over the world. So we understand, all of those who are connected with Prabhupada really understand particularly his quality of being compassionate to people in general. We know the sacrifices that he underwent to carry out the mission of Lord Krishna himself, of spreading Krishna Bhakti all over the world. So just like this, when I came to Krishna consciousness, I started to make gradual progress and was struck by how just amazing how much knowledge we are getting through the medium of Srila Prabhupada, and how it's changing our life. And at some point, I read on the internet some things which were very disturbing about Srila Prabhupada. So clearly these were writings by people who were either not familiar with his teachings in totality is a big thing, but even in somewhat in depth. So they possibly had picked up few things and misunderstood them. But gradually, in the course of the last 20-25 years of being associated with ISKCON, there have been some frequent misunderstandings that come up even amongst devotees. So I thought about taking up few things which create some doubts in the mind of some devotees, or it upsets them, disturbs them. So to go on with strong faith in Krishna consciousness, it's very important that our faith in Srila Prabhupada's words is intact. So I wanted to spend some time on working on something that I call in defense of Srila Prabhupada, that there are some statements which are viewed as derogatory, but we understand that is not possible because we know how Srila Prabhupada is. He does not have ill feeling towards any living entity, what to say of any human being. Some of the things that we hear about, especially because there's a whole lot of such, a vast majority of such statements concern women. So Srila Prabhupada is accused of being a misogynist. And some of his followers are also accused of the same. The meaning of the word misogynist is a person who hates women. So that's really strange, because we know how Srila Prabhupada is. He's just absorbed in the teachings of the Vedic scriptures and in imparting this to people. And he embodies all the qualities of a devotee, and compassion is one of them. So it's inconceivable that somebody would think that he hates a whole class of like 50% of humanity. So it's a grave accusation. It's clearly incorrect, but we need to also see why these things come up again and again sometimes. So this is one of the topics we are going to take, and over the period of few classes, we'll take up some other topics. So let's see why this confusion occurs. When we begin to read Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, one of the first few statements that we encounter appear to be derogatory, actually. So in Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, when Arjuna is concerned about degradation of womanhood, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, According to Chanakya Pandit, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. Similarly, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes in the context of Draupadi, so Ashwatthama murders her children, and when Arjuna binds him because she asked him to do so and brings him in front of her, she actually offers respects to him because he's a Brahmana. And there Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, women as a class are no better than boys, and therefore they have no discriminatory power like that of a man. A good man or woman accepts anything very easily, but a man of average intelligence does not do so. But anyway, we should not give up our reason and discriminatory power just to be gentle. And so this is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 7th chapter, purport of verse 42. And it clearly says that in the context of Draupadi and then particularly women in general, that they don't have the discriminatory power that an average man may have. So in several places, apart from this, in several places in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find the mention of Mahabharat, which is compiled for less intelligent class of people, including women. So it is said for Shudras, unqualified sons of higher castes, and women. They are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, Mahabharata was prepared. 1:425 purport. And similarly, there in purports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other purports, you find similar statements that Mahabharata was composed for less intelligent women. Also, the fact that women are less intelligent is mentioned in context of Bhagavad Gita Shloka 9:13, where actually Lord Krishna says that whoever surrenders to me will achieve the highest destination, even if he is a Shudra, Vaishya, or woman. So all these are put in the same category, and Srila Prabhupada emphasizes this because of them being less intelligent. The intelligence of women in general is also discussed in the context of Kunti Devi in the section where Devahuti is mentioned, Sati, when Parvati curses Chitraketu, and when Hiranyakashipu is relating the story of King Sujanya's queens lamenting his death. So in many places in Srimad Bhagavatam, we find this repeated over and over again, that women are less intelligent. So we find this little hard to accept because in this day and age, we find both girls and boys are educated. When they're in school, they both get good marks. They're amongst the toppers. You'll always find that girls are also there. It's not predominated by boys. And today they are in every profession. You know, they are astronauts, they are researchers, they are they're scientists, inventors. So you do not find that women are not represented in any of these fields which we typically associate with intelligent people. So then in that context, we find these statements little hard to understand, little hard to accept. I know I had a tough time accepting it when I first came to Krishna consciousness. So let's unpack this a little and understand, is this true, or in which context is it true? So we'll discuss few of these things. So let's take it from a conventional point of view first. So conventional point of view means like in the world today, what is the view? Are men and women different in their intelligence? So if you Google it, you will find that no, most studies claim that they are both capable of it's equal amount of intelligence. There are studies done in which on an average men and women have the same intelligence. So let's discuss what typically one means by intelligence. Conventionally, it means a person who's able to solve a problem, come up with a rational solution. These are some of the things that one associates with intelligence, that given some information, you can analyze it and come up with a proper understanding of it. So that is intelligence. And also conventionally, it is rational thinking, logical thinking, critical analysis. These are the things which are associated with intelligence. And the fields which are particularly, which require this kind of intelligence is called STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So it's called STEM fields. So that's sort of the measure that those people who are in these fields are considered intelligent from a conventional point of view. Now, although we see that there are a lot of studies where they say that on an average, there's the same. If we analyze it a little more, what that means on an average is that there are men who are generally on the higher end, and then there are also men at the lower end of the spectrum. That means you'll find very intelligent men, you'll find not really foolish men or whatever, less intelligent men, and there are women usually come in the center. So now if you take an average, so you'll see that yes, men and women are on an average similar intelligence. But it's true that the men generally come in the upper bracket of, there's a band where you'll find more men than women. And so similarly, I was looking at news reports where they said that in CBSE, girls are doing much better. So by that, they mean they have a better pass percentage. So they are clearing the board examinations and all, with a higher number of girls are clearing. But if you look at the toppers, you'll always find, yes, mix of girls and boys, but mostly more number of boys. And well, it's also debatable, is this a measure of intelligence, these kind of examinations? How much do they test the intelligence? Because a lot of it is technique. It's information, memorize, or if even in case of math, science, you get the past papers, get the technique. So it's a bit questionable. So what's the other measure? There is a test called IQ, which is intelligence quotient. And that I saw that in the 40 smartest people in the world, 5 are women and the majority are men. So like we said, that you do find that they are in the higher bracket. So all over the world, we find that women are less represented in these STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And why is that? A lot of people say it's because of the bias against women, that they're not encouraged to take up science. But let's see very realistically. When I was growing up, in India at that time, the middle class, all the children, girls and boys, were encouraged to get a good job, because that was the aim of studies, that you study well and get a good job. Now, the good jobs were in computers, engineering, and medicine. So both girls and boys were encouraged to do well in that. So I did not find, when I was growing up, that there was any bias in that no, girls should only take arts. Not like that. Because at our time, perhaps that was earlier, but in our time that changed. But nevertheless, even though the parents wanted it and they sent their girls for extra tuitions and this and that, at the end of the day, when I went to engineering college, the boys were way more in majority, even more so in IIT. So if the STEM fields are any indications, even in countries where there is enough encouragement given, we find that the girls just don't come up to that mark. And in general, I saw amongst my friends, a lot of girls struggle with maths. It's like a nightmare for them. So I'm just saying, from a conventional point of view, if this is the measure of intelligence. Also in Western countries, we see the same thing, that in So even if you say that in India and Asian countries, the girls are not given that much encouragement, but what about in the West? For decades now, the women have been given equal rights and equal opportunity, in especially in education and such fields. And I'm sure nobody's telling them that, oh, you should just study, you know, a particular kind of thing. If they are good, definitely they would be encouraged by the teachers and parents. But still, we see, particularly in PhDs, you know, there are lesser, the representation of women becomes less and less, from bachelor's to master's to PhD programs. That's research. It becomes less. And is it really just a case of discrimination? Because no, a person who's determined, and a lot of women are determined in this day and age, but it comes down to, yeah, whether they are really capable of pursuing it. And that's what the statistics are in front of us. So how much of it is biased discrimination? Maybe some of it, maybe that plays a role, but not such a big role that when you see the statistic, it's like a really small percentage of women who reach the research field of these fields, the research area of these fields. So from the conventional point of view, it seems to support what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Even so, now there's a lot of, they say even intelligence. This is the conventional view of intelligence, you know, rational, critical thinking. But now they're saying intelligence is of three types: practical intelligence, rational intelligence, and emotional intelligence, like that. So if you put all these factors in, then you probably find that men and women are equally balanced, because definitely women are have an edge over men when it comes to relationships and dealing with people. So in that sense, you can, if you think that that also requires intelligence, so they are on an equal footing, because you may be good at solving rational problems, but women are good at solving problems which are to do with feelings and emotions. So nowadays people say they're the same, because you also have to think about emotional intelligence. So in that sense, they are claiming that men and women are same. But this keeps changing. You know, whatever is in the outside world, whatever is popular, the meaning of the words change. Intelligence is defined differently. Like earlier, it was critical thinking, problem solving. Now there's a whole lot of other things that they say. This whole thing becomes your intelligence. So, so then they say, how can we understand what Prabhupada is saying? Actually, Prabhupada is using some scientific research here and there to support the Vedic version, just to put the point across to his audience. But he's not basing his statements on scientific research. Actually, whatever he's speaking is from the Shastras, is given in scriptures. So it is not his personal opinion. It is what is given in scriptures. So let's see how intelligence is defined in Shastra and what it says about women's intelligence. So from Bhagavad Gita 10, 4 and 5 purport, Srila Prabhupada says that intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective. And knowledge means knowing the distinction between spirit and matter. So according to scriptures, this is the definition of intelligence: to distinguish between soul and body. So a person who is able to make this distinction is intelligent. So this is the definition given in Shastra, and this is unchanging. So this has always been the same. So it has nothing to do with conventional understanding of what is intelligence. And based on this, Prabhupada says in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:23-54 purport, generally all women desire material enjoyment. They are called less intelligent because they are mostly prone to material enjoyment. So here, this is the crux of the matter, actually. Why Prabhupada says women are less intelligent, or why scriptures say this, because amongst men and women, the tendency for women to be attached to material things is more. So it's there in both men and women, but that's why we are in the material world, but it's slightly more in women. So that indicates that they are less intelligent. So this is mentioned in a paper that was written many years back, entitled Women in Prabhupada's Time. It was authored by Jyotirmay Mataji. And excuse me. So she explains that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the working senses are superior to dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. One should steady the mind by deliberate intelligence. Then it is explained, according to this definition, an intelligent person is one who is able to control the mind with his intelligence. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing. Therefore, it can be concluded that a woman is less intelligent because she has harder time to control her emotions than a man. So this is one of the things, that because women are more emotional than rational, so their mind sometimes is not under the control of the intelligence. And therefore they become less intelligent because they're driven by their feelings. So this is explained. Of course, then she goes on to say, it does not mean that a woman is completely deprived of intelligence. So we're just talking about relative terms. That's important to keep in mind. Okay, we're just saying less, not that completely unintelligent. And there's something interesting given by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, who writes as spiritual scientist. He writes very nicely that there's bodily misidentification, and that is intelligence is the ability to differentiate between matter and spirit. And intelligence begins by understanding that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. So this bodily misidentification is strong for everyone in the material world, both men and women. But in general, it is stronger for women because women have a form that is attractive and alluring to men. And to a large extent, for a woman, if she is not spiritually minded, her sense of self-identity or self-worth comes largely from her bodily form. In that case, to understand the spirit is not the body is much more difficult. So these are the two things that are mentioned according to scriptures. One, that was mentioned by Jyotirmay Mataji, that they're not very rational, they're emotional. So in that terms, they are considered to be less intelligent. And the other thing is that intelligence is to understand that you're not the body, but the mental makeup of the woman is such that she's very attractive. And, from a young age, people also start encouraging that, oh, you're looking so cute, so beautiful. They'll dress up a girl very nicely. So she starts identifying with that a lot. And not just what people are doing, it's just ingrained in a woman. Even if somebody is not doing that to you, when you grow up and you have a chance, and if you have the money, then you want a variety of dresses, not just one. You want nice earrings. So this is, it's not that we should curb these things unnaturally, because it's just our mental makeup. It's just how women are. They are called stri, which is expansion. So they do that's their function. That that's how a grihastha life functions. That the wife the husband provides, and the wife makes a very nice, conducive atmosphere for the children, for the husband, for everybody nicely. She keeps the house very nicely, but she wants things for that. She desires comfort for herself and her children. So later we'll see how Prahlad Maharaj's mother, they were both given instructions, but she could not remember those instructions given by Narad Muni because as a woman, she was concerned with the welfare of her child. So this is natural, being in a woman's body. So the confusion comes because we think that this is bad. To be less intelligent is such a, it's humiliating if somebody says something like this. But if we are not that defensive about it, and we accept this is what Shastra is saying, and that's fine, and what do I do with it? So that's important. So these are the two things that, okay, they are not rational and they are slightly more attached to a material life. So these are the two things why it is said that women are less intelligent. And again, even in Jyotirmay Mataji's paper, she emphasizes that it doesn't mean that, all the men are there on one side and then there are the women. That means that a woman is less intelligent than any man. So it's not like that. There's an overlap. So there will be some women who are more intelligent than some men. But always Prabhupada writes generally. So we are taking a general case that if you take like in a school that there are girls and boys who are equally from a similar background and so on, they've been given equal opportunities, you'll find that the boys may be doing better than the girls. So it is just in general. In general, you'll find, and Mataji also makes the point that if you take the most intelligent man and the most intelligent woman, it's likely that the man is a little more intelligent than the woman. So that's when two people are equally matched, it's likely that the man is more intelligent. That's what it means. But why we are so anxious to admit it? Because we fear that if somebody tells us we are less intelligent, that will give them a reason to control us, to tell us what to do. And as Jivatmas, we don't like that. Nobody likes that. We came to the material world to be the controller. So if somebody, wants to tell us what to do, it's not something that we like. So therefore, the best thing is to do, no, we don't even want to think about it, that, oh, we're less intelligent, you get to tell me what to do. I don't like that. But a sign of being a disciple or being a follower is to accept what is explained by the acharyas, written in the shastras, for only with that we can make spiritual progress. So the next question that may come up in our minds is that, okay, fine, maybe women are less intelligent, but what is the need to emphasize it again and again? Because Prabhupada mentions it often. So let's see how and why he does it, what is his intention, because that will help us greatly to understand this, and it will pacify our minds when we come across these statements. We won't get agitated or upset. So the first thing is that Prabhupada is not disparaging towards women in general. His attitude has always been very caring, very compassionate towards all his disciples, women included. He would always take special care. So he's not against women as a class. That's quite clear. Let's see how he writes in his books. In the case of Draupadi, where he said that she doesn't have discrimination and so on, actually in the next few verses, he really talks about her in such high terms, because he says that she was a good lady, she was a gentle lady. And he says that to a good lady, the matter was considered not from the angle of Shastra, but as a matter of custom. And he says this means that a devotee of the Lord can tolerate all sorts of tribulations personally, but still such devotees are never unkind to others, even to the enemy. These are characteristics of one who is a pure devotee of the Lord. So he's accepting she's a pure devotee. This is in 1743. In 1749, he says that such statements by Draupadi are without duplicity because actions should be taken with full knowledge. And it was glorious because she wanted to show proper respect to a great family. So when Prabhupada is saying that Draupadi does not have good discrimination, he's not putting her down as a person. He's stating it as a fact that, look, in this situation, she was not being very logical. But he's admiring that this is also out of compassion that a pure devotee has, and that it's such a it's such a good quality that you can't tolerate pain for others. So this was so this is how we need to see these statements, that it is not against women, that they're less intelligent, so let's just forget about women, we don't even want to discuss them, it's not worth it, nothing of the sort. Yeah. Then in Devahuti's case, he's in 3:25:30 purport. Srila Prabhupada says Devahuti requested her great son to be merciful towards her because she was a less intelligent woman. And Devahuti herself says this in the verse. But the point that Prabhupada is making here is that by the grace of Kapila Dev, it was quite possible for her to understand the absolute truth, even though the subject matter is very difficult for ordinary persons, especially women. So why does he emphasize in this context that he's saying, okay, maybe she was less intelligent, yes, she's a woman, but because of accepting a spiritual master, she could understand Shastric truth. So here Prabhupada is just mentioning the importance of accepting spiritual master. In Devahuti's context, he also mentions in 3:24:5 that the woman is less intelligent. And here he says, generally stree or woman is less intelligent than a man. Therefore, if the husband is intelligent enough, the woman gets a great opportunity for spiritual enlightenment. So in this case, the instruction is for men, that maybe your wife, being a woman, is not able to understand philosophy that well or retain what she hears, but you should guide her, you should help her in her spiritual journey. So here it is mentioned to give instruction to men who are husbands, particularly, that you should help your wife in her spiritual journey. A husband should be so enlightened that he should become the spiritual master of his wife in order to enlighten her in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. So we see that everywhere where Prabhupada makes this statement, there is some context, there is some reason. He's not saying it to be disparaging towards women. Sometimes he's just stating it as a fact, right? Like when he talks about Mahabharata being, he just says less intelligent. Okay, so he's just stating it as an objective fact. But in most cases, when he makes that statement, he also has something very encouraging to say. Just like in Prahlad Maharaj's pastime. Prahlad Maharaj mentions about that his mother forgot the instructions. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada again mentions Bhagavad Gita 9:32. And then he says, women are generally attached to material enjoyment, and because of this tendency, they sometimes forget devotional instructions. But then he emphasizes that even if a woman practices devotional service strictly, according to rules and regulations, the statement is made by the Lord himself that she can return to Godhead. Prahlad Maharaj's mother was more concerned with protecting the child in the womb and was very anxious to see her husband return. So Prabhupada explains the context, that why she forgot. And then he also gives this very encouraging statement that even if she is less intelligent, even if women are less intelligent, what does it matter in your spiritual journey? So this particularly this verse is quoted in a mood of encouragement, not to humiliate. Never Srila Prabhupada is using it in a tone that that, oh, women are just like Vaishyas and Shudras, they're just less intelligent. He's always saying it in a way that women feel encouraged, that it doesn't matter, you can achieve spiritual perfection. So we find in 9:14:36 purport, women have been compared to Shudras and Vaishyas. On the spiritual platform, however, when one is elevated to the platform of Krishna consciousness, whether one is man, woman, Shudra, whatever, everyone is equal. So very encouraging statements by Srila Prabhupada. So he doesn't just say these things for the sake of, say it and then leave it at that. He usually follows it up with that, well, yeah, maybe this is a fact, but it should not become a hindrance to our spiritual progress. So we see in the case of Kunti Devi, she herself says that how can we women know you perfectly, when she's glorifying Lord Krishna. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that women in general are unable to speculate like philosophers, but they are blessed by the Lord because they believe at once in the superiority and almightiness of the Lord. This simplicity of acceptance of the Lord's authority is more effective than showy, insincere religious fervor. We also find when women were standing on the rooftops and glorifying Krishna, it is mentioned that those conversations were more dear to the Lord than Vedic mantras chanted by Brahmanas in a way of rituals. So, so many places we find that side by side with the fact that it is said that women are less intelligent, the fact that they have this simplicity, this gentle nature is also, they are given credit for that. And that's a good thing. That will help in one's spiritual life. In fact, in the book Teachings of Queen Kunti, where the same verse, which is 1:8:20, again, it is mentioned that women are regarded as less intelligent, but if one takes to Krishna consciousness, one is most intelligent. And in fact, it is mentioned about Kunti Devi that she was the most intelligent, for she recognized Krishna to be the supreme Godhead. And it is said when she makes statements like this, she is taking the position of an ordinary woman. So she's being humble. So why we discuss so many of the places where these statements occur, so that when we come across these statements, we can understand them in the proper context. And we can see how Prabhupada actually has very encouraging things to say. And we should not be discouraged because, well, yeah, this is a fact. This is part of the body that we have. And it's not that it's only women who are saddled with, weaknesses, because maybe it's true that women are less intelligent, more attached, but like Prabhupada says, they're gentle, they're soft-hearted, they quickly accept the statement of the Shastras and they can dedicate themselves to spiritual life. So at the end of the day, if one understands that, okay, this is a weakness, I have to look out for this, I cannot retain philosophy very well, so I should make an extra attempt to do that, to understand it, to internalize it and work on it in my life. But similarly, the men have their own problems. Sometimes they're too rational. They're always, they understand the philosophy, but they find it hard to accept. They're so much in the mood of controller because they have to guide their family and so on, that they find it hard to surrender. So we all have our challenges, men and women in their bodies. But it's important these statements are made, they are emphasized so that we understand what are our strengths and weaknesses, and how we need to work on them so that we can make spiritual progress. So that's the main aim. The idea is not to put down one class or to say that, oh, men, they're just dry speculators and they will never truly surrender, or they are control freaks. So no, we don't want to put down men or put down women. It's just to understand what a particular body, what is our mental makeup, or what are our problems that we need to be aware of. So that's all. And these are things that are not unnatural. We all experience it on a day-to-day basis. Like, we do see that women do want, a nice setup at home. They want more clothes, jewelry. They are concerned with how they look. Even if one is going for travel, you think about, oh, okay, I'll wear this for my travel. Whereas men would just pull on whatever they have, which is most comfortable. When we are packing things, they'll have very little possessions. And I know, because when we travel as a family, it's like 3 women and Prabhu. So he would like to have just 1 suitcase or 2 suitcases, but we end up having bags. Even if we're going for like a month or 2 for summers, we do want like at least some variety of clothes, some home clothes and some clothes when we go to the temple, like that. These things are there. And despite the fact that I'm also reading philosophy, I'm trying to follow the things, and we are trying to follow a very simple lifestyle. But I noticed that these are natural differences between men and women, and the attachment is there. to be, a little bit concerned about how we look, and how the house is when somebody comes to visit, and so on. Because now in our house, we have a 2-bedroom house. The girls have 1. My mother-in-law is now staying with us, so she has another, and me and Prabhu are sleeping in the hall. There's a sofa bed. So sometimes in the morning, the sofa bed is open, and if somebody's coming, I'm so concerned. Oh my God, somebody's coming to our house. The hall must look like a hall, Prabhu is least bothered. I mean, so long as it's clean and it's neat and tidy, that's fine. So these things we do see on a day-to-day basis amongst men and women. In every household, it is there. Not in every, like each and every, I'm saying in general, we'll always find some differences. Okay, the next thing that comes up, and I think we should wind up very quickly. So this is the last thing I'm going to try and take up, is that we do find that one of the understanding is that, okay, this is true in general, but it's not true for devotees, because spiritually we are all equal. So as soon as we begin to practice devotional life, then men and women are immediately put on the same platform, particularly because in Kali Yuga, everybody is supposed to be a Shudra. So anyway, we're all the same, the men and women. We're equally degraded and so on. So that is true, but still we see through the Shastra that there is a difference in this context of intelligence. Like Devahuti herself says, such a qualified, the princess of the ruler of the whole world, but still she says that she requested her great son to be merciful towards her because she was a less intelligent woman. She herself says it in 325:30. And then in the case of Sati, when there's a conversation between Sati and Shiva, Sati admits she wanted to go to her father's house, and knowing that there was, so much unpleasantness between Daksha and Shiva, and how he had insulted him. So then in 4:3:11, she says that I know about the 3 modes of material nature and the external energy. This truth is fully known to you, she says to Lord Shiva. Yet I am but a poor woman, and as you know, I'm not conversant with the truth. Of course, she was. She's like the wife of Lord Shiva, and very, very qualified. We see in the end how she just She's so accomplished that she just chooses and leaves her body at will and transfers herself in another body. So very qualified, yet she's saying this. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada paraphrases and he says that she's saying, I'm not so advanced in transcendental realization. So even at that stage, these very qualified women are admitting that sometimes they are not able to be, um, very rational in their thought. Sati might have heard all these things many times from her husband, Lord Shiva, but because she was a woman, Yoshit, she still hankered after the same material objects of affection. And this is really explained, again, wife of Lord Shiva, now this time Parvati, in the pastime of Chitraketu. So Parvati curses Chitraketu because he made some disparaging remark about her sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva, not realizing that these were friendly discussions between Chitraketu and Lord Shiva. So Srila Prabhupada explains, here is a difference between male and female that exists even in the highest statuses of life. In fact, even between Lord Shiva and his wife. Lord Shiva could understand Chitraketu very nicely, but Parvati could not. Thus, even in the highest statuses of life, there is a difference between the understanding of a male and that of a female. It may be clearly said that the understanding of a woman is always inferior to the understanding of a man. In the Western countries, there is now agitation to the effect that man and woman should be considered equal. But from this verse, it appears that that woman is always less intelligent than man. So here Prabhupada is saying that in an equal status, it's not that Parvati is less intelligent than all men. No, these are very, very qualified ladies, Sati, Parvati, Devahuti, they understand Vedic scriptures. They've adopted it in their life. They're living it. Still, there are these lapses, and they're there to serve as for us, for ordinary women to understand that if they are saying such things and it's happening with them, then who are we to say that, oh, that's fine, but I'm very intelligent. I'm that exceptional woman who's like amazingly intelligent. So there are exceptions, just like Prabhupada says generally. So we should understand that it doesn't mean that all women are, unintelligent. It means that in many cases, women are less intelligent compared to men. And what are we going to do about this? We are going to accept this and we are going to work on it so that it does not become an impediment to our spiritual life. This is the lesson we are going to take from it. This is not to be taken and misused that, oh, women less intelligent, so we don't need to listen to what they say. We just order them around and they do what we tell them to. No, that would be really, it would create havoc in a family life, because many times we see in scriptures that women give counsel to their husbands, just like although many of these instances the men did not pay attention to it, just like Tara warned Bali that, oh, Sugriva is coming to challenge you. It doesn't look good. Do not go. But he went and met with his death. And Mandodari told Ravana to return, to not, keep Mother Sita in captivity, did not pay attention, met with his death. Then we find Sita Mata advised Lord Ram to not be closely associated with his bow. So there's a nice conversation between them, and Lord Ram accepts what she's saying. So we do find that in the course of, in the relationship between a husband and wife, this statement is not to be misused, and it is not to be used as an excuse to disregard whatever women have to say. No, they should also be given a hearing, but at the same time, women should understand that they have certain limitations, and they should not expect that what they say should be given primary importance or sometimes equal importance. Again, depending on the situation, like if it is something to do with children or an emotional crisis that someone is happening, let the lady of the house handle it. Or if it's something to do with finances, generally men are better at it, so we can concede to what they plan for the family. So like this, if we have this kind of understanding, it will help us to be more peaceful, to understand what works for us and what doesn't. So while it should not be misused, it should also not be completely disregarded, that this is not for us. This is, just these are statements, but they don't mean anything in this day and age, or they don't mean it for devotees, or like, oh, Prabhupada said the women in our movement are more intelligent. So that means all women in ISKCON are more intelligent than all the Prabhus. So no, we should understand these statements in the proper context. How does this practically affect devotees? I've written 2 points. It should not be misused to put down women. Prabhupada never does it, and no man should do. I mean, men should not do it, even within our movement. Should not be misused in that way. And second, women should be aware of their own limitations and humbly take advice when needed. So this advice can be taken even from senior Matajis, because they are more intelligent by dint of their spiritual practice, or it can be taken by through the men who are guiding us, which could be our spiritual master or our husband. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Very long class, but I feel very important topic because it comes up often, and especially in the beginning, these are statements that we are not very happy about when we read them. So how to come to terms with them and understand that they're made for our own good, and Prabhupada is actually being merciful when he's pointing these things out. So Hare Krishna. Please, if there are any comments or questions, then we could take them now.
Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, it is always nice to hear and learn many things from you. So first, Mataji, I will request you, please take some hot water, because as you mentioned, your throat is totally affected and you're coughing also. And by the time I'll ask other Matajis if they have some doubt or some comments or some question, please raise your hand so that we can unmute you. Okay, Shirsha Mataji, please unmute yourself, Mataji. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
So happy to see you every time, Mataji. I feel very encouraged, and just by looking at you, I feel very happy. I tell my Prabhuji that when we go to Mayapur, definitely I wanted to meet Mataji and seek her blessing. Thank you for the wonderful.
Definitely. I love that we are through Zoom, we are able to be in touch, but I also miss how we have classes where we are face to face. So it would be wonderful to meet you in person. Please do make a visit and come.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Mataji. My question is, Mataji, in the initial first time when I was reading Bhagavad Gita, when I had come across a statement like this, it just felt a little bit in the heart, but I wasn't very serious because by then Prashadam Association took it, that started working